The morning fog had not yet lifted from the Veldrath Academy's outer training grounds when trainer Kale Vera arrived with the beast. He did not announce it. He did not need to. The 43 cadets assembled in the open yard heard it first, a sound like tectonic plates grinding against one another, a low, resonant rumble that vibrated in the sternum before it reached the ears. Then the gate opened, and the skorth stepped through. It was enormous. The skorth was a creature native to the molten ridgelines of Havre 4, six-limbed, with a hide the color of cooling magma and eyes like compressed plasma. Its four rearmost legs moved with hydraulic precision, each step leaving a shallow impression in the reinforced stone. Its two forelimbs were raised slightly, talons half extended, not in aggression but in readiness, the way a knife fighter holds their hands before the opponent has moved. The cadets as Velhari, Dronathai, even the stoic Kesh who were said to feel no fear, took an involuntary step backward as one. All except Mara Ellison. She stood at the far left of the line, third-year cadet from the Sol system, the only human in this graduating cohort. She was not the tallest. She was not the broadest. She wore no ceremonial armor like the Velhari cadets, only the standard gray and black field uniform, her dark hair pulled back in a tight braid. She watched the skorth the way a person watches a sunrise, with quiet, total attention. Kale Vera walked alongside the beast, one hand resting lightly on the chain harness at its shoulder. He was a Dronathai himself, gray-skinned and amber-eyed, and had trained war beasts for 37 years. He had never lost a limb, which was considered something of a miracle in his profession. He scanned the cadets' faces the way he always did on assessment morning, looking for the mask, the performance of bravery rather than the real thing. He already knew what this exercise would reveal. Today, Vera said, his voice carrying easily across the yard, the skorth will approach each of you. You will hold your position. You will not reach for a weapon. You will not speak. You will simply be whatever you are. He paused. The skorth reads intent. Not words. Not posture alone. It reads the thing underneath the posture. Pretending to be unafraid will not fool it. The beast will respond to what it finds. He released the harness. The skorth turned its massive head and selected the nearest cadet to begin. Cadet Orandesh Velhari, decorated in 3 simulated combat scenarios, ranked second in his cohort, stood rigid as the beast approached. The skorth lowered its head, plasma bright eyes leveling with Orin's chest. It drew a long breath through the secondary gill slits along its jaw. Then it snarled. Not a strike. Not an attack. A warning, a challenge, the kind that says I have measured you and found you uncertain. The sound was like a thunderclap in a cave, and Orandesh, to his credit, did not run. But he flinched. His hand twitched toward his absent sidearm. His jaw locked. The skorth moved on. Cadet Lis Varnavikesh, cold-blooded in the literal sense, said by her people to process fear differently than warm-bodied species, lasted longer before the response came. The skorth circled her twice, methodical, tasting the air. Then the snarl again, lower this time, almost contemplative. Lis didn't flinch. She simply closed her eyes, which the skorth apparently found unsatisfying. It snorted at her like a dismissal and moved on. Cadet after cadet. The snarl every time. Some flinched. Some froze. One second year from the northern Velhari colonies actually broke and ran, which earned him nothing but a long walk back and a note in his record. The skorth did not pursue him. It simply watched him go, then returned to its circuit. Kale Vera stood with his arms folded and watched. His expression gave away nothing, but he was already calculating. 28 cadets assessed. 28 snarls. The beast had not been gentle today. It rarely was on overcast mornings, something about the light or the air pressure that sharpened its instincts. 11 cadets remained. Then 7. Then 3. Then the skorth turned toward the end of the line. Toward Mara Ellison. Vera found himself uncrossing his arms. He had read her file, of course. Every trainer read the files. Human female, age 26, born on a place called New Meridian, a colony world, agricultural, unremarkable by most metrics. No combat family history. No military lineage. She had qualified for the academy through the open merit examination, scored highest in adaptive problem solving, and performed in the upper tier of every physical assessment. Good numbers. Respectable numbers. But nothing in the file explained why she was standing the way she was standing right now. The skorth was 3 meters away and closing. 2 meters. 1. Mara Ellison did not step back. She did not tighten her jaw or lock her knees or perform the rigid stillness that the other cadets had attempted. She simply breathed. Slowly. Steadily. Like she was sitting in a field somewhere, watching the sky. The skorth stopped. It was so close now that its exhaled breath moved her braid. Its plasma eyes tracked across her face, her shoulders, her hands, which were loose at her sides, fingers uncurled, open and empty. It pulled a long breath through its gill slits and held it. Reading her. Kale Vera had seen a skorth pause like this exactly twice in his 37-year career. Both times, it had preceded either an exceptional predation strike or something he still, privately, had no framework to explain. The beast lowered its head. Slowly. Deliberately. Like a door closing gently rather than slamming. It brought its great skull down until the bony ridge of its brow nearly touched the stone ground. A full lowering. A posture that, among skorth, communicated a concept that Vera had seen described in xenobiological texts as acknowledgement of apex, the recognition that something in the other creature's presence registers, on a level below cognition, as categorically distinct. It knelt. The yard was absolutely silent. Vera waited until the session was dismissed and the other cadets had filed back inside, most of them too stunned or too shaken to speak, before he approached her. Mara was still standing in the yard. Not frozen, she had watched the others go, had exchanged a few quiet words with Liz Varn before the Kesh cadet left. She just hadn't moved yet, as if she was finishing some private thought. Cadet Ellison, Vera said. Trainer Vera. She turned. Up close, he noticed her eyes were a gray-green, calm, attentive. No sign of the performance calm that many cadets wore after something they felt they needed to make look effortless. You've been near a skorth before, he said. It wasn't quite a question. She tilted her head slightly. No, sir. Then explain to me your reasoning. Your approach. She considered this for a moment. Not performing consideration, actually thinking. There wasn't much reasoning, she said finally. I grew up on a colony world. We had work animals. Big ones. Not like that, she gestured vaguely toward the gate, but big enough to kill you if you made them feel cornered. My grandmother taught me, she said the animals that scare you aren't afraid of your fear. They're afraid of things that don't fear them right, things that are afraid wrong. Messy. Reactive. She said the only safe way to stand near something that could kill you is to not be dishonest about what you are. Vera looked at her steadily. And what are you? Mara Ellison almost smiled. It didn't quite arrive, but it was close. Someone who's been small her whole life in places that were much bigger than her, she said. You stop being scared of the size eventually. You start being curious about it instead. Kale Vera had trained cadets from 11 species across 40 years of combined service. He had seen courage performed and courage real and courage that didn't know its own name. He had filed reports on all of them and scored them on rubrics and submitted his assessments to the Academy Board. He would write something different in Mara Ellison's file. He wasn't entirely sure what language it should be in. The Dronathai word that came closest roughly translated as the stillness at the center of a storm that has stopped apologizing for the wind. He thought that would do. 3 weeks later, When the graduating cohort received their first field assignments, it was Mara Ellison who was requested by name for the Havre 4 frontier operation, the only active deployment zone where skorth were used as allied combatants rather than controlled assets. The requesting officer's note read simply, "Send the human. The beasts will follow her." And they did.